Hello and welcome back. This is the Clay Golem. This is Foundry VTT, D&D 2024 edition. So this is the D&D game engine in Foundry 4.x, whichever one we're on at the moment. In the last video, we looked at customizing, or rather creating our own backgrounds for characters. Had a bit of feedback. John Wieland, check the comments in that video. John Wieland posted something in there which has actually made this even nicer and smoother for us. So one of my complaints was the fact that it doesn't give you the equipment you want. And actually we've got a workaround for that, and also about the fact that not being able to choose feats. So I've updated my gladiator background that we worked on previously. You can see it's now got an image in there that I've just added in, and I've updated the description. So ability scores: strength, dexterity and constitution, which we decided before. Feat, a choice of one from alert, lucky, savage, attacker, skilled and tough. Sorry, didn't mean to hover over that. Skill proficiencies: athletics, and one choice from acrobatics, intimidation, performance or survival, which is what we wanted to be able to do. A tool proficiency: any one tool proficiency. So you can choose, because you know what, make it your character, give it your background, not, oh, because you're a gladiator you have to have leatherworking. That doesn't make sense to me. And equipment: you get some basic starting gear plus a choice of melee weapon, a choice of ranged weapon and a support weapon. Because you're a gladiator, you're trained with a number of different weapons. So what do we do differently now that this has been updated? Well, the details hasn't changed. Haven't started that. Got starting wealth there of 20. If we go to advancement, now the thing that John Whelan pointed out was using the cross at the bottom. Now if I just click on this, this is where you can add in extra lines from there. And I thought, well, I don't need extra lines because it's already giving me my feats, but it's not working the way I want to. But what you can do instead is you can say, well, hang on a minute, I want to choose items, create that advancement, call it whatever you like. You can tell it what you want. So I want it to be features, feats, and you can drag and drop here. So if I go to the player's handbook and I pull out the feats folder, go to origin feats, I can drop these feats in as many, whichever ones I feel like. And then of course, if I say any one from any level, so I'll pick one of them, it will then allow you, I want to get rid of allow drops. If you have that on, it allows the player to add things to the list themselves. We don't want that. We're being generous enough as it is. So teep fight, I need to change that to just say origin feat. This doesn't actually seem to make a big difference, to be honest, this bit, but it's this bit. These are the feats I'm allowing you to choose from, and you can choose any one. So if I close that, you can see that that is added in there. Choose items, choose one. It's this one here because I didn't rename it. So I'm going to get rid of that particular one because I don't want it. So I got rid of the feat it awards you as part of the base one, and I've added in choose background feat, choose one. So I've added that in. I've also, because of the equipment thing, I have got choose your melee weapon. You choose one. Choose your ranged weapon. You get to choose two from there, and you get to choose two things from the support weapons as well. You'll see what those are in a minute. And for the standard stuff that I'm going to give you, I'm using from here the grant items, which means it will give them to you. So it's going to grant you, I know it's very small on your screen, bedroll, backpack, traveller's clothes, a tinderbox, water skin, torch, a dagger and leather armour. You get those regardless of what weapons you choose. So this works much nicer, being able to do this and being able to get around that issue of you can only have one feat, that's what you get. And that is the thing that I really don't like about the 2024 backgrounds. Yeah, again, for new players, fine, brilliant. You don't really understand possibly what the feats are, you just want to get on and play. Fantastic for that. But once you get beyond that, you know, and you've had your first game, you're on your, I don't know what, 100th and 20th character or whatever it is. God knows how many characters I've had over the years. I want the freedom. I want to be able to play my gladiator with that background and not say, oh, his background's a farmer because that's the only one that's got the feat that I want. you know, which is a bit pants. So that's what we've done. So let's how to demonstrate this. So we've got Pop here, who is my gladiator. I've already put an image in, and they don't have a background. So going to my items, I've got my gladiator background. I can drag that in exactly as we would expect. This is asking us our 3 points. We can put them in anything we like: strength, dexterity. There we go. Do next. I now get to pick my background proficiencies. It's giving me athletics. I've got 3 more choices to make. I've got 1 skill, because it tells me here your background grants you proficiency in athletics, and 1 other of your choice from acrobatics, intimidation, performance and survival. Those are here. Let's go with acrobatics. It also grants you a proficiency with 1 artisan's tools of your choice. Look, I've got all of the artisan's tools to choose from because I said any. You can choose any. I don't really care. Let's go with jewelers just because it's a bit of a weird one, but why not? Depends on your character. And a gaming set. So again, choose a gaming set. Let's go with dice. Next. Got my 1 additional language we set up previously. This is that grant items. It's giving me these items. I've got no choices there. Brilliant. Here is my choice of background. So now I get to choose and say, well, let's say I want Savage Attacker. Brilliant. That's what I'm going to get. My melee weapons, choose 1 of these. Well, for this individual, I'm going with a spear. Thank you very much. That's going to be his main melee weapon. I get to choose 2 ranged weapons. So if I go with like crossbow, I probably want to choose bolts as well, which is kind of why I went with choose 2, because if you might want ammunition. For this individual, I'm going to go with a javelin, and a hand axe is always useful. So that's going to be my 2 ranged options that I have. And then from a support weapon, I could choose another javelin, another hand axe if I wanted to. I've got a whip in here. I've put net in here. For my dude, I want him to have a shield. So that is my choice of support weapon, basically your offhand weapon. And I'm going to give him a net. Now, interestingly, net comes under equipment, adventuring equipment. It does not come under weapons. But you can use it in combat because it's an entrapment thing. And if you're thinking about gladiators, you may have noticed in one of the in the main melee thing, trident and net. It's a standard. Somebody in the comments is going to tell me what the name of that particular gladiator is that's trident and net, because they do have very specific names for particular setups, and I can't remember what it is. Somebody will say, I'm sure. So I'm going to have shield and net as that, and I'm going to complete. So it's popped my background in over here, my gladiator background. You can see that down here are my tools. It's given me my jeweler's tools and my dice set. You can see for my skills, athletics and acrobatics has been put on exactly as I would want. If we go to my backpack, it's given me the gear. And this is what was really annoying me about the standard backgrounds, is you have to drag that stuff onto your character sheet. Nah, we do it this way. So I could go through the standard ones and alter them so it automatically applies to gear. I don't know why that doesn't automatically do that already. That's a little bit weird. Maybe there'll be an update where that improves. But as you saw, you create a character using a standard background and you end up with no equipment. And then you've got to go back and go, oh, what equipment was I supposed to have? That's pants. So I've got my dagger, which came free of charge. Spear I chose. My hand axe and my javelin, which were my melee choices. My ranged choices that I took. I've got my leather armor, I've got my net and my shield that I took, my traveler's clothes, my tinderbox, my torch and a bedroll. So it's brought in all of those things. There's nothing on spells, as there shouldn't be, and shouldn't be on there either. So that is a much nicer way of being able to do backgrounds. Improvement on the last one. Thanks, John Wheeland. I did look at that plus thing and I went, well, I don't want to add more options. What I hadn't thought of, yeah, I do want to add more options and delete the existing options. So effectively replacing them with a better version of that. So that is now a fully actually working functional background for building a character. And it's so much easier. It's so much easier. Now, somebody else in the previous video also commented about, yeah, great. What about doing classes and feats and items and species and spells and customizing those? We will work through those because it's much easier in the 2024 rules in the D&D 4X version of the game engine. It's much easier to customize some of these things. For example, we've just done backgrounds, so we will look at those. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of changing classes and updating those. I like a more traditional game, and I think when you take into account things like Tashas and things like that, there are so many classes to choose from. But importantly, it's those subclasses, and we will look at, can we change some of those subclasses, so when you hit that level 3, bam, you're picking your subclass. And I know generally there's been a fair bit of criticism of the idea of you don't get your subclass until level 3 across the board, and that causes some weirdness. So if you make a level 1 cleric, you don't even pick your domain until level 3, and it's a bit weird because you haven't even you go for 2 levels casting spells using the power of your god when you haven't even chosen your god. It seems a bit weird, but the other way is, depending how you use those subclasses and how you build it into the story, in some ways it's actually good because you're working towards that and you're coming into your power. So I would suggest with clerics that you are already worshipping that god. It's just you haven't really proved yourself to get access to those specific powers from your god. You should, as a cleric or paladin or any character that has follows a particular god, you should be kind of choosing that early on anyway. It's part of your background, and I do find it interesting that in the backgrounds it doesn't ask you anything about choosing your sort of religion. We've got stuff here, ideas, your ideals, your bonds, your flaws, and stuff like that. There's nothing about which god you follow. Now, I know that can be difficult because that ties directly with your game world, but you could absolutely, if you're using a very specific game world, your own or Forgotten Realms or Dark Sun, whatever it might be, you could get them to choose their religion as part of the background if you wanted to. I'm sure you could make that work. It's just another choice they make. Now, it might go with, you'd put it in as a feature. So, background feature, Savage Attacker. That's an origin feat. You could add it in as a feature, so they're picking that person, that god, that entity, whatever it is. You could do that, and you could do it with lots of other stuff as well. So one of the things I do want to look at with things like the subclasses is joining organizations. So you might be familiar with some of the big organizations certainly within Forgotten Realms, like the Harpers. Well, if you join the Harpers, you're probably not going to start that at level 1. By the time you got to level 3, if the DM is building a campaign that is kind of more around joining those kind of groups, a spy network, a smuggling network, a religious order, the King's Guard, whatever it might be, then it kind of makes sense that you've got subclasses that match in with that. So you join the Harpers, you get the Harpers subclass with whatever that comes with it, things like that. So that's a possibility. So we will look at that as well, but this is kind of backgrounds done. I'm really happy that this works much nicer than it did in the previous video. So yeah, really easy. We can go on and create as many backgrounds as we want. It's basically create whatever is going to work for yours. But again, recommendations is don't go too far out of the bounds of the existing thing. So yes, 3 points to distribute. Don't go 8 because it gets bonkers. Everybody ends up super powered, and then you kind of lose some of that flavor. It becomes unbalanced. So to try and follow that pattern, but you could do whatever you want. Now, of course, one of the things that we could do is we could take a background and just say, do you know what? We're going to say that you can put those 3 points anywhere you like. Background proficiencies, you can choose any 2 you like. Your artisans, pick anything you like. Your gaming set, anything you like. Your languages, any 2 you like. Basic equipment. And you could have one background that actually enables people to fully customize that background. And you wouldn't need any of the others, because they really could customize it down to the detail. And I'm very tempted to do that. My warning would be is people are going to pick and choose from a metagaming, from a max minning point of view, and matching things up, and may not create a story for why their character has this odd selection of feats and equipment and languages and things like that. So you might want to be a little bit cautious. But in the old days, for us old folk, we didn't have backgrounds like this. You gave them a blank bit of paper and said, write background. How did your character get here? Where do they come from? You know, we didn't have this. It didn't exist. So some of us have been doing it. It's really nice to have it as a guide. Currently, I find it too restrictive, although we've got to work around for that now. But yeah, you could open that up completely with them, but I would strongly encourage you to, they need to justify that, you know, and same as, you know, if we've got granting items and everything else like that, background proficiency, if they choose for their artisans tools, jewelers, like I did, I might say, hang on a minute, so you're a gladiator who knows how to use jewelers. How does that work then? Tell me the story of how you gained that skill when you're a gladiator. And it might be that's what they were before they were a gladiator. Maybe that's what they used to do as a profession, and then they were enslaved and made to fight as a gladiator, as one of those slave fighters. It might be that they, you know, I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another kind of instant scenario where that would make sense. But it could be they've got crafting and things like that, and they did that as part of, you know, their downtime in the gladiatorial school, because you can't practice all day every single day. You've got injuries, you've got rest periods and things like that. What are they doing in that downtime apart from playing with dice? You know, so you could justify that, but I strongly encourage you to get your players to do that. Right, that's enough in this video, but I did just want to kind of hot on the back of the previous video just show you that actually we can do it even better than we did there, and I think this is pretty much perfect. Just remember to write up your description, or at least edit it so it makes sense to your players when they are taking that. Brilliant, there we go, lovely jubbly. Any hints and tips like that, very, very much appreciated. Always drop them in the comments, and also make sure you read the comments. I do try to pin the most useful comment for all of my videos. You know, when people are saying, actually, did you know you can do this? This is a different way of doing it, or something like that. I do always try and pin those, because you know, between us, we know everything. Individually, we don't. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.